Exeter, the picturesque regional capital of Devon, is a lively cosmopolitan city of 114,000 inhabitants. Most people going about their daily lives are unaware of a serious problem that faces the city: the growing mountain of rubbish that residents and businesses produce. Exeter's 46,000 homes produced 40,000 tonnes of waste between April 2001 and April 2002, which is enough to fill the historic cathedral several times. On average, the amount of rubbish produced by the city has been rising by 3% a year over the last 10 years. Until 1996, all rubbish collected in Exeter was either burnt at the incinerator at Marsh, Barton, or taken to one of the many landfill sites across the county. Since the closure of the incinerator, all of Exeter's rubbish has been taken to Heathfield landfill near Newton Abbot, where it is buried in the ground. In the past, burying waste was considered the most sensible thing to do. However, over the years, the government and waste managers have become aware that this approach means that many valuable materials are wasted. Waste management options can be placed in a hierarchy, with the most desirable at the top and the least desirable at the bottom. This waste hierarchy now forms the backbone of government waste policy. This hierarchy can be summarised as follows: reduce the amount of waste being generated, reuse materials without reprocessing, recycle non-reusable materials, or recover the energy from any remaining waste. Britain as a nation has been slow to recognise the growing problem and lags far behind most of Europe when it comes to recycling and reducing the amount of rubbish produced. Switzerland, for example, recycles over 50% of the waste it produces, whilst the UK only manages a mere 12%. Local authorities in the UK now face a serious challenge in coming up with ways to meet the government recycling targets. Devising effective strategies and building the infrastructure to deal with the growing mountain of waste has been a time-consuming and expensive process. There are a number of ways that Exeter has decided to tackle this problem. Although the Council actively supports waste minimisation initiatives such as the Real Nappy campaign and Bag for Life, the most practical way that we can tackle the landfill problem is through recycling. At present, the Council has 26,000 houses in Exeter on the Recycle from Home scheme. The scheme was first piloted in 1994 and was the first of its kind in Devon. Households joining the scheme are first surveyed to see which type of bins are the most suitable for the type of property. Generally, the Council will supply a green wheeled bin for recyclable rubbish and a grey wheeled bin for the non-recyclable rubbish. Properties that have steps, no storage space, or are set back a long way from the nearest access point for the refuse vehicle are supplied with boxes for recyclable rubbish and are allowed to use bags for non-recyclable rubbish. If householders require a normal bin to store these bags in, Exeter City Council can supply one on request free of charge. Properties on the scheme put out their green recycling bins or boxes and their grey bins or bags for collection on alternate weeks on their designated collection day. Householders need to refer to the year planner we supply to ensure that they put out the correct coloured bin each week, as we will only empty the correct coloured bins on the designated week. Householders also need to ensure that their bins are put out at the boundary of their property in time for collection. As our refuse collection up until the start at 6 AM, we would advise putting them out the night before. Following these guidelines will mean that your bins are always emptied. All the recyclable refuse that is collected on the streets is taken to Exeter City Council's new materials recycling facility at Marsh, Barton. Opened in August 2001 and costing £1.7 million, the plant is designed to handle up to 36,000 tonnes of recyclable refuse a year. Now this plant is up and running, the Council has been able to expand the Recycle from Home scheme across the rest of the city. The Council is now on target to have the whole city covered by the scheme by the end of 2003. On arrival at the plant, the refuse lorry tips the waste collected onto the floor of the holding bay. A mechanical digger tidies the waste into piles ready for sorting. The shift supervisor at the plant checks the waste and records which area of the city it has come from. This is important so the Council knows which areas are recycling properly and which areas might need more information about how to operate the system. The waste is then dropped a little at a time onto the primary loading conveyor. This is done to ensure an even flow of waste through the plant, which helps the sorting process. The primary loading conveyor takes the waste up to the pre-sort cabin, where the first stage of sorting takes place. Staff remove any obvious contaminants from the recyclables, which are dropped down a chute into a large reject skip. Any waste contained in the bags are dropped down another chute onto a conveyor. This takes them to a machine which rips them open and diverts the waste inside back onto the primary loading conveyor. Cardboard and bagged textiles are also removed from the waste stream at this stage. Card is dropped straight into the top of a large baler, whilst bagged textiles for recycling are dropped down another chute into the holding container. The remaining recyclables exit the pre-sort cabin and fall onto a large vibrating screen. Any items that are too small to be recycled, such as bottle tops and small pieces of paper, fall through the holes in the screen into another reject skip beneath. After passing over the vibrating screen, the remaining recyclables fall onto a vibrating inclined sorter belt. This device mechanically sorts papers from plastics and cans. As paper is flat, it stays at the top of the belt and falls onto the paper conveyor. Metal cans and plastics roll down to the bottom of the belt and onto the cans and plastics conveyor. This method of mechanical separation is about 80% efficient at separating these materials, although some flattened cans and plastic bottles do fall onto the paper belt. The paper is then carried up and into the paper sorting cabin. There are a large number of staff working in this cabin to make sure that no metals, plastics and other materials are allowed to become mixed up with the paper that is sent off for reprocessing. Aylesford Newsprint, who recycle the city's paper, will reject any load arriving at their Kent factory which is contaminated with non-paper items. Having a load rejected is costly, as the council has to pay for the load to be transported back to Exeter for resorting. Plastics and cans on the other conveyor pass under a powerful magnetic belt that removes all the steel cans from the stream. These cans are then diverted straight into a baler situated underneath the magnet. Any remaining cans can therefore be safely assumed to be aluminium. The remaining cans and plastics now enter the final sorting cabin. Here, plastics and aluminium cans are removed from the remaining waste. These are dropped directly down chutes into their respective balers. At the present time, the council has a market for most plastic items, including carrier bags. Any remaining non-recyclable waste carries on the conveyor belt out of the building and into a large compactor skip behind the building and is taken to be landfilled. In addition to the Recycle from Home scheme, people can recycle glass, paper, cans and textiles in static banks at one of over 70 locations in the city. The council has just embarked on a programme to replace the old-style wheeled bottle and paper banks with new larger modular banks. These have many advantages over the previous system, such as requiring less frequent emptying and a greater resistance to vandalism, as they can't be moved and are made entirely of non-flammable materials. The council purchased a new specialised vehicle to empty these bins. Glass, paper and cans are collected from the banks and taken to the recycling park at Exeter Road, where they are stored until there are enough to send to the reprocessors for recycling. Unfortunately, the main reprocessing firms are not based in the southwest. For example, paper is sent to Aylesford in Kent. Glass has to be taken all the way to Yorkshire, whilst plastics are sent to St Helens in Merseyside. These distances mean the council has to pay high transport costs. To reduce this cost, the council works in partnerships with other local authorities to jointly arrange transport.